Today I'll be discussing an interesting murder, one that remains unsolved and has to do with the Genovese family. There are a few theories as to why this person was killed. Nonetheless, it's definitely another example of how the Genovese family doles out their discipline. The murder itself correlates to the New Jersey waterfront. The waterfront stretches from the container ports in Newark and Elizabeth to the terminals in Brooklyn and Staten Island. And despite all the five families having their hands in the ports, it's commonly known the Genovese family controlled the waterfront. During the 1970s, the Genovese family placed one of their most powerful captains, Tino Fiumara, to handle their rackets on the New Jersey docks. They controlled the ILA, which is the International Longshoremen's Association. And through the ILA, they not only controlled the union, but the docks as well. Fiumara learned how to deal with the ILA during his younger years in the 1960s, while in Peter Lodi Pete LaPlaca's crew, which he ran out of New Jersey, and controlled the ILA. Prior to that, it's been said Fiumara was associated to Angelo Bruno's family in Philadelphia. Representing Fiumara on the docks were members of his crew, fellow Genovese member Mikey Capa and associate Lawrence Ricci. The Genovese family ran their rackets out of the docks, such as extortion, naturally labor racketeering, no-show jobs, gambling, loan sharking, strong-arming, narcotics, etc. They shared the waterfront operations with the Gambino family, who also had a crew at the docks. During the 1950s, the Waterfront Commission was created, specifically in 1953, to fight corruption at the ports in New York and New Jersey. In 1979, Ricci was convicted alongside Fiumara for attempting to extort $4,800 from a restaurant in Parsippany, New Jersey. They would be indicted again in 1980 for controlling and extorting the New Jersey Trade Waste Association. Ricci subsequently had the charges against him dismissed on appeal. When Fiumara was in prison, he assigned Coppola to the acting captain position of his crew. Ricci became officially inducted into the family in 1991. By then, Ricci had control over the ILA, Local 1588, which controlled the docks in Bayonne, New Jersey. By the early 1990s, Fiumara was back in the street and took control of his crew. At the time, the Genovese family's main guy in New Jersey, Bobby Manna, the family's consigliere, was in prison for conspiring to kill Gambino boss John Gotti, thus making Fiumara the family's most powerful captain in New Jersey. However, being he was on federal probation made operating difficult for him. In order to meet with members, Fiumara rode in the trunks of cars to avoid detection. According to the FBI, Fiumara was extremely knowledgeable when it came to anti-surveillance techniques. Nevertheless, Fiumara was eventually spotted meeting with certain people and received a violation in 1999 and was put back in prison. In his absence, he created a two-man acting captain position, which included Ricci and Michael Borelli. Coppola had been on a lam since 1996 in order to avoid supplying his DNA to the FBI involving the murder of Johnny Coca-Cola Lidiere, a fellow Genovese member who was killed while on a prison furlough on April 10, 1977, in the parking lot of the Red Bull Inn Motel in Somerset, New Jersey. After shooting Lidiere, Coppola left behind a hat which naturally contained his DNA. Sometime in 2000, Ricci would get caught up in the middle of a crazy mess. According to former Philadelphia captain Pete the Crump Caprio, he had the backing of the Genovese family, which he said Ricci confirmed, and the Gambino family, both who allegedly fed up with the unstable Philadelphia leadership and sanctioned their administration to be taken out. The plan was to invite Joe Legambi, the acting boss, underboss Steve Mazzone, and consigliere George Borghese to a meeting and kill the three of them. Caprio claimed the Gambinos benefited because they planned on installing Joker poker machines in South Jersey and Philadelphia and didn't want to cut Legambi in. The plan never came to fruition because Caprio was arrested at his house in Union Township, New Jersey in March of 2000 and charged in a racketeering indictment that included 2 murders. Shortly after his arrest, Caprio began cooperating with law enforcement. In and around 2004, Ricci was indicted along with ILA union officials Harold Daggett and Arthur Coffey. He was charged with guiding union contracts to a pharmaceutical company for kickbacks equaling $400,000, as well as mail and wire fraud. On October 7, 2005, 2 weeks into the trial, which started September 20th, Ricci failed to appear in court. At the time, his lawyer told the judge, "I do not consider my client's absence a voluntary one." He also told the judge that this was out of character for his client, who was free on $500,000 bail. The judge continued the trial without Ricci. On November 30th, 2005, a patron of the Huck Finn Diner in Union, New Jersey, complained to the manager about a bad odor coming from a car in the parking lot. The manager went out and checked the car, which was a silver Acura, and realized that the car had been parked there for a few weeks. The car had a great deal of flies hovering around it, and when the manager checked the doors, he found them unlocked. So he went into the car and removed the registration and then phoned the police. The police ran the plate, which was flagged by the FBI because it belonged to the cousin of Lawrence Ricci. The cousin told the FBI that Ricci borrowed the car weeks earlier, around the time he disappeared. Ricci was last seen, as mentioned, on October 7, 2005, which was a Friday. FBI agents popped the Acura's trunk and found Ricci's decomposing body, which couldn't be identified at the time. Following a check of dental records, they positively ID'd Ricci as the victim. He'd been shot 3 times, once in the back of the head and 2 times in his torso. He was fully dressed and had a jacket pulled over his head. Apparently, leaving victims in the trunks of cars in diner parking lots was customary in New Jersey, as the Gambino Sicilian faction had done the same in the 1980s. This practice was mostly done as a message to everyone that this is what happens for whatever the person was suspected of doing, and not so much as giving the family of the victim closure. They couldn't care less about somebody's family. Law enforcement has their own theories as to why Lawrence Ricci was killed. The first being the alleged comments that Ricci made regarding the plot against the Philadelphia leadership. According to Pete the Crumb Caprio, Ricci confirmed that the hits were sanctioned by the Genovese family, when supposedly they were not. Getting involved in the politics of another family, especially ones that involve taking out the entire administration, would naturally put somebody in jeopardy with their own family. Additionally, if the family that was being plotted on finds out the person was somehow involved, they can rightfully make a beef that that person should be killed, or just kill the person on a sneak. The next theory is that apparently Ricci was offered a plea deal in his case, which he denied, one that would have avoided him going to trial. For me, this is the most likely reason why Ricci was killed. The Genovese family is a family extremely cautious when it comes to exposure. In fact, their history displays the total opposite, with them going above and beyond to remain in the shadows. So having one of their captains sitting at a defense table alongside ILA union officials was something they definitely didn't want. The family was pulling in millions of dollars from the Waterfront, so naturally, they didn't want any added attention. The next theory is that by killing Ricci, it would cause a mistrial in the case, which obviously didn't happen, and the trial continued without him. I can't see them killing Ricci for this reason. They could have just told him to go on the lam, which still wouldn't have caused a mistrial. So in my opinion, this is the weakest theory. And lastly, that the Genovese family felt Ricci would cooperate if convicted. According to Ricci's lawyer, his client had no such intentions, as far as he knew, and if convicted, was only facing 5 years. Throughout the mob's history, if a family suspected that a guy would cooperate, they went on the side of caution and killed the guy rather than roll the dice. It also was a preventive measure used by the bosses to insulate themselves. The ironic part of the story is on November 8, 2005, a Brooklyn jury voted for acquittal of all defendants, including an acquittal for Ricci in absentia. At the time the verdicts were read, Lawrence Ricci was still considered just missing, and his body was not found yet. Following the discovery of his body, over 1,000 people attended his wake, a testament that numerous people felt that Lawrence Ricci was a good guy. It's believed that Michael Capa fired the fatal shots into Ricci. When the decision to kill Ricci came from the Genovese administration, possibly at the suggestion of Tino Fiumara, who then gave the order to Capa to take Ricci out. The moral of the story is, in the mob, the person you once looked up to and served can very well be the one to order your lights put out.